is 8. We can, and then we were to write if, and then uh, if 7. Oh, sorry. If A or B is greater than 10. No. If we'll just go on to the next thing. These operators are just consist of Boolean expressions, just and or, and there's also not. Relational operators. So with these, you are comparing two values. Uh, so with this, you have these two equal signs. This is different from just having one equal sign, because one equal sign would be assigning a value to a number. These two equal signs means that these values are being compared, so they have to equal each other. This is not equals, so when um, two two integers are not equal to each other, this is greater than and less than. Um, so if you were to have this, it would compare the left hand side is greater than the right hand side, or this is less than. This is greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. Uh, So going on to statements. So there's conditional statements. Like I was writing earlier. There's if statements, and these test whether a condition is true or false. If a condition is true, the if statement will be executed. If not, you write an else, and then that uh, that that compound statement is executed. So again, if the if is false, if the Boolean expression in the if is false, then this is just completely skipped, and then the line of code moves on to the next line. So loop statements will continue to run. They're kind of like conditional statements. These will continue to run while a condition is true. The most commonly used one is while loop. Before I get into that, let me just show an if statement. So we'll use an if statement and relational operators. So if A is greater than B, we'll see out um, A is greater than B, else see out B is greater than A. Okay, so in this code, we're gonna see if A is greater than B. So A is 7 and B is 8. So here we're basically saying if 7 is greater than 8, then we'll put out 7 is greater than 8. Now this is false, so this line of code will just completely get skipped, and it will move on to this else statement. So there you go. B was 8, so 8 is greater than 7. Okay, so moving on to to the loop statements, to the while statements. Uh, this will continue to run while the condition is true. So, for example, say while let's go with integer c is 10. This is just very random. So while c is greater than 0, and we're just gonna see out hello. So while 10 is greater than 0, which is true, is just gonna keep repeating hello over and over, as you'll see right now. So as you can see, it's just repeating hello over and over and over again, because this condition inside is never changing. So since it's not changing, this is now an infinite loop. It's just gonna keep going. To do this, you want to clear your terminal, or click on new terminal, and then it stops. So to stop a loop from just repeating over and over again, this condition either has to be changed, or you can also just use a break statement, and this will just run it once. This break statement exits the nearest loop. So here we have a while loop. So this line will just run once, and then once it reaches the break, it's going to exit this while loop, and then since we have returned 0, it's the end of the program, so it will just run once. So there you go. We just have it running once. And the same thing for the while loops with the if statements. If this condition is false to begin with, then it would just not run. So for example, we switch this to less than, so 10 less than 0. This is false to begin with, so if you were to just run that, just nothing would show up, since it is false. So now we have a for loop. This is great because it can run something just a certain number of times, like however many times you need it to. So for loops, they start with an initialization part, a condition that is going to be tested, and then followed by the initial variable being updated. So here we have 4. We have integer I is equal to 0. This is your initialization. Then a semicolon. This is the second part is what's being tested, and then we have the update. So I plus plus. And we have the braces. So what's gonna happen inside? So here we can have cout, and then we can have stars. So here, before we run this code, let me just talk about how this works. So here we have a variable that we initialized. So we have I is equal to 0, and then we're gonna test 0 is greater than 5. So this is true. So then we're gonna run this line of code right here. And then once that runs once, we're gonna update I. And then so now it will be 1 is greater than 5. Oh wait, sorry. This is supposed to be less than. Okay, so from the beginning, so we have 0, and 0 is less than 5, which is true. So we're gonna run this line of code, and then I is gonna be updated from 0, so it's gonna be 0 plus 1, which is 1. So now we have 1 is less than 5. which is true again. So we're gonna run this line of code one more time, and then we I is updated to 2. So we have 2 is less than 5, which is true. Then it goes to 3, and then it goes to 4, and then once it reaches 5, we have 5 less than 5. 5 is less than 5, which is not true. They are equal. So this line of code will not run. So if we were to run it, there you go. We have it. We ran it 5 times. So again, because when I is 0, that is this first line. When I is 1, that's the second line. When I is 2, when I is 3, and here is when I is 4, and that's where this for loop stops. So next is nested for loops. So this is just basically like a for loop inside of a for loop. So to show you an example of this, I'll just reduce this to 3, and then I'm just going to show you that this is ran same thing as if it were to be 5, but this is now 3, so this just runs 3 times. So here it's I is 0, I is 1, and then I is 2, and then it gets to I is 3, and then stops. So there's no more lines that are being outputted. So now we were to write another for loop inside of here. So again, we initialize a variable. Oh, sorry. I is less than 5, and we update this. And let's go over to C out, and then let's go with the stars again. Okay, so what is going to happen here is where the program is going to run into this for loop first, and it's going to go into I is equal to 0, and 0 is less than 3, which is true. So then it's going to go inside this for loop and run whatever statements are inside of here. So inside of this for loop, we have another for loop, and here we have I is 0, so 0 is less than 5, which is true. And so since this is true, it's gonna see out this line of stars, and then this I is gonna be then this integer I, this one in the inside, this will be updated again from 0 to 1. Then which is so now it's gonna be 1 is less than 5, kind of like before, which is also true. And then so it's gonna run it's gonna output this line again, and it's gonna be updated again. It's gonna go to 2, it's gonna go to 3, it's gonna go to 4. Once this for loop is false, once it is false, this for loop is exited, and then it will go back into this for loop. And since this for loop only has these lines of codes inside, and once these stop, so does this for loop. But in one round, or in one check of this condition being tested, we had 5 output lines. So now when we go to, that was for for this I being 0. But now when this is ran in the first round, and it goes happens 5 times, this outer I is updated from 0 to 1. So now we have 1 is less than 3, which is again true, and then we run this again,